This week on the Faculty Factory podcast.
Who knows, Instagram, tweeting. We start tweeting faculty.
No, these are all good ideas. I mean, what you said, the webinars and the podcast and things like that, these are great ideas. Now, what we have to figure out is how do you get your faculty energized to use those kind of formats?
Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast, friends. On today's episode, we have Johnson George. And Johnson is the Executive Director of Administration and Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, the McGovern Medical School. Hi, Johnson.
Hello, Kim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So happy to hear your voice. How in the world is this move going? I know you left our dear friend Kathy Pipitone and Patrick Smith at the University of Mississippi, and you moved on to, over to Texas, in just January? So you're only been there a minute. How's that going?
Well, Kim, what is interesting is Houston was never in my map, right? So things happen, and things happen for good reasons. So this is, I don't think this was by accident, but I was very, very content and happy with Mississippi. You know, Dr. Smith, how encouraging he is, how he can motivate his team. And where I am today, I have to give credit to Dr. Smith for, everything that he's done for me, for helping me, coaching through the process and mentoring me. He probably didn't realize he was mentoring me, but he was one of my informal mentors. But, it's going well. Texas is new. It's, as they say, Texas, everything is big in Texas, and so is the school. This is the biggest medical center in the world. So they have MD Anderson here, the Methodist here. So it's a whole street. I mean, it's like a mile. It's all hospitals and the medical school right in between. A big research enterprise going on with MD Anderson. So this is the largest medical center in the world. So I'm really excited to be here.
Wow.
And, I'm trying, and it's slowly, settling down. I mean, it's not easy, but slowly getting into the groove of things right now. Yeah, that's what Texas is. It's hot. It's humid. Houston is really humid. So we went through a little bit of flooding. We didn't get anything flooding in our place, but there was some flooding in some areas. That's what Houston is. That's what they tell me. They got 13 bayous here in Houston. That's where the water flows out to the ocean, to the Gulf. Wow. And once it cannot keep it, then it comes onto the road and everywhere else. It gets flooded. That's what Houston is. But excellent place. Nice place, though. Yep.
Wow. Now, I know you have a unique background, Johnson. I mean, many of us come up through, faculty ranks, and your background started with an MBA, and you have a lot of expertise in industry around project management. Is that right? Can you tell us how you started off a career in industry, and this kind of unique perspective or background ended up landing you in academic medicine? How did that happen?
So my story, I'm always really happy to share that part of that story of my career. So I'm a computer science grad, and so that's what brought me to this country. I'm from India originally, so I got to the U.S. and so I started my career in IT, and did that for a long time in industry. Like what I said, I don't know if many of our folks who are listening into it probably remember the two-way paging technology back in the 90s, and I worked on that. Not on the engineering side, but on the on the application part of it. So that was exciting days back then, and now we have back then in that industry time, we actually foresaw everything that we're doing today. But unfortunately, that company didn't that went belly up during the 2000s. And that forced me to make a transition into program management and project management, which I was doing over there also. But then what I did is I went and got my certification in PMP. And that landed me with University of Mississippi to lead their ERP implementation. That is enterprise resource planning. That's a big software application that most of the schools use, for your billing and for your procurement, for your financials. So I led that effort over there as their senior project manager, and we implemented that project. And after 2 years of that, I was asked to go to Dr. Smith's office for a meeting with him to discuss a project. So I walk into his office and I'm talking to him as a project manager, trying to understand what he's got. And through the conversation, towards the end of the conversation, he makes an offer to me to come on to the faculty affairs part of the house. And that is my first exposure to faculty affairs. So I did not know exactly what this was all about. My experience was part of the IT part was in the academics, and then moving on faculty affairs, coming under his umbrella in his office, fairly new office at the time. Kathy Pipitone was, her, and Dr. Smith, it was exciting. So I said yes to him, and so I got into that office as one of the directors. And we started working on improvements on different, the fascinating thing that I have to say about Dr. Smith is he brings cool ideas. I mean, he's a thought leader. And, and then he discusses those kind of ideas with his team members. And then he gives autonomy for the team members to go develop on it and work on it. And that's what he gave me. He gave me the autonomy, and he made me who I am. He helped me grow into that role. And so there I am with faculty affairs, and I loved it every day of my stay there. I enjoyed it. Dr. Woodward, the vice chancellor, she was great. I mean, good leader. And, of course, all the chairs that we had at UMC. So it was a fantastic time of my career up there, and I learned a lot. And, of course, my best part of that life was getting to know GFA. Mm. And I tell people, there's no other organization that I know that can come close to what we at GFA do and how we interact. And it's a community that is strong, that is bonded together, and we are there to help each other out. So that is what faculty affairs, and that's where it brought me in. And I'm still in love with faculty affairs. I'm still in love with faculty development. That is something that brought me into Houston over here. And in everyone's stage of life, I mean, there comes a point when, you want to grow a little more than where you are right now. And that opportunity is what got me to Texas. So that's my background. That's who I am.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Johnson. I definitely share your feeling and your sentiment about the GFA. I too feel like that is my family. Those are my people, my inner group, the people who get and understand me. And so I'm totally with you on that. I'm really curious about the project that Patrick Smith interviewed you for in this. Of course, we all know him as a thought leader, as you said. And what was this wacky idea that made him seek out a project manager in IT, bringing them into faculty affairs? Can you tell us about that project? And then I'm curious how someone with your background, who's probably used to thinking in terms of products that are these amorphous, or as you were saying, these pagers, two-way pagers, and thinking about project management and flow charts and inanimate objects. How did you make that spiritual switch to including faculty and people and human beings and managing them? So can you tell us about that project and how you made that kind of mental switch in your head?
Well, I think that so the project part of it was probably just for him to get me to his office to talk about it. I mean, he didn't want to really tell me that it was an interview that he was going to have with me for a position that he had in his mind. So the project was, yeah. So
it's very strategic.
I'm telling you, but that's how we positioned it. And you know what it does is when you have someone walk into your office thinking it's not an interview, you are your own. You're natural because now you're talking and walking what you know about, and you are speaking in the language that you know how to say. So it was all about technology, how I wanted to do certain things, and how I could get it. So it was more about information gathering, understanding what his needs are, and listening to the client. So from my perspective as a project manager at the time, my job is to listen to my client and see what is that they are asking, and not to actually provide a solution at that point. It is rather understanding what the needs are. And then the solution part comes at a later stage when I can get back to my office and think about and put it all in a piece of paper and like what you said, the flow charts and the diagrams and the process flows and everything, and see if it all fits together and if there's a solution that we can provide, which is beneficial to him and in a timely manner. So, but his goal is, so one thing I have noticed with Dr. Smith and the office that I've worked over there is he had individuals from various different backgrounds working in that office. So all my colleagues, we were all from different areas of, we brought different expertise to the table. So that's how he formed his team, and which is really strong. I mean, it's quite unique for a leader to form a team, to identify individuals from various backgrounds and bring them in. And he knew what the future was looking like. And he knew what the vision is. And what he did is he shared that common vision with all of us. And all of us had the buy-in from all of us. And now we are all working towards one common shared goal. And he was really successful in doing that. So given an example, he actually drew an island. What he did is what is called a faculty life cycle. So that's the first time I saw a picture of faculty life cycle in a visual manner. And one of the things that I did is I looked at that. Now you asked me about how did I put humans into this, where I coming from the technology aspect into the human part of it. So looking into that, thinking about how how we start recruiting a faculty, the time that you first make a call to a faculty as a potential recruit is when you have now started the conversation, and that's where the chart now starts moving. So from that point on, till they retire from institution, that spectrum is a faculty life cycle. So he had it like an island up there, and he had little palm trees and boats and different things up there. So then I converted that into a kind of using Visio, a more of a graphical way of understanding each step of the process. So that was my first gig, a little bit of what I did with that part, and which I believe it still hangs in our office up there. It's a big framed flowchart that I did, and we have used and shared with a lot of other people across GFA, and they have seen that. So it actually gives you a clear understanding of each stage in a faculty life cycle, starting from recruitment, through their career, the development, and then moving up different positions, through the retirement, and if you had some problem, individuals, then, what do you do with them? And then the incentives, what do you do, or how do you reward people, and how do they move up? So all the stages, that was my first, into that faculty affairs. But then he also made me understand the different things we do within the faculty affairs world. It does not stop with recruitment. It does not stop with faculty development. It is more of, understanding who our faculty is and actually meeting their needs and helping them through the process, helping them keep satisfied and retaining them for the institution and in benefiting both sides. So I got that part of it. And what I learned from is a lot of listening skills, a lot of patience, and empathy. So that's what it is.
Well, you definitely, kudos to Patrick for creating and building this environment and this culture, because that's very clear. And kudos to you for having the vision, or allowing yourself the flexibility to see that vision and make it work for you. You said three things that I think clued me into how an IT project manager works. And ironically, again, going to diversity, who knew when you bring different people around a table, you can come up with some great ideas. You said three things. I listen to my client. I want to understand the needs. Then I go back to my office and think about it. Listen, understand, and think. And my gosh, aren't those just kind of basic qualities that we should all just strive for? Listening, seeking to understand, and then actually thinking about it and coming up with a plan and not solving it on that moment. So I love those. I love that instruction to yourself and the way you explained how you project managed your own thinking into a new culture.
And it is true for everyone. I mean, we all have that. I mean, and unfortunately, we just don't use that all the time. Sometimes we are too anxious and we act too fast, or sometimes we want to please everyone and we just go a way that may not be the best path or the best solution for everyone. And I have been there too. In my early days, I really want to make a quick, solve something really quick, and you do that, but you ignore certain other elements, that may have contributed to a better solution, and you just don't do that. And that comes with experience, and that comes with coaching and mentoring and wisdom that you get from other people and observing other teams. And I've been really fortunate, Kim, to be part of the GFA, because what it has done to me personally is I have seen so many leaders in GFA that have exhibited high leadership traits, characteristics, which I want to mimic. That's what I want to develop on. And it's not, it's not something they just speak and go. I mean, they really truly walk that talk.
Yeah.
They do. So it is, we see that every day. And I really appreciate those opportunities. That's where I have learned. And that's what I do now. And one thing I've learned from through my career in GFA and my work with faculty affairs is it is not about receiving, it's all about giving, right? I think that's what we do. And we want to give, we want to share, we want to help. And that is what I have gained through my experience with faculty affairs.
Love it. Love it, Johnson. Why don't you tell us what is exciting and new and something you want to share with us? I know you've just been there a minute, but like what's going on there that's kind of intriguing you and getting you kind of excited?
So here's the thing, Kim. So when I came here I was interviewed last December, and then I came and joined here in January. So we had two separate offices in McGowan. One was the Office of Administration, and the other was the Office of Faculty Affairs. And they had two separate directors there, and different, supervisory structure and everything. And so the two directors of those two offices decided to retire at the same time. So that led both of them to actually think about what if we merge these two offices and have combine the offices, because there was a lot of a lot of things they were doing the same things they were doing but in different offices. So and information sharing was not probably was happening, but it could have been more efficient. So they realized that, and kudos to them for them to realize there was synergy that they could build upon if they did combine them, and for both the deans. So I report to two associate dean, one a senior associate dean, and then an associate dean. So the senior associate dean is administration, and the associate dean for faculty affairs, which he also holds multiple other hats as a vice president for the institution and things like that. So that was a challenge, and so they merged these offices, and now they went on a national search to have someone to come in lead that initiative. And they knew it is all brand new idea and never tested. And you know how it is difficult when you merge different companies or different offices, and then you have different cultures going on, or however it is. So, and then having a third party, from somebody outside, coming from a whole different culture, and coming here to lead that initiative. So that by itself, but I was up for the challenge. I mean, that was the best part that I liked was, I knew it was an opportunity for me to take my own wings. And that's what I told Dr. Smith when I left there. I think, I've been, with you for a long time. You have, really helped me out, but I think it's probably time for me to to fly on my own a little bit and see how that looks like. Mm-hmm. So I come here, and so this office, I have 8 staff with me, and I call them, each one of them, I call them my team members. I never address them by staff, actually. So I should not be saying that. I mean, they are all my team members and my colleagues. And which is what Dr. Smith taught me one day, and that's a different story and for another time probably. Mm-hmm. But I treat everyone with respect. I mean, that's what I think tell them is, we treat each of us with respect. We may have different ideas, we may have different thoughts, but that's what we are. So one of the cool things that I've seen here, and I can, which my experience with UMC and other schools that I've read about or seen through our listserv is for their promotions and tenure, for example, they're all the school, processes them, they approve them, but then they have a university level committee that actually does vet that process, and they approve that list. They actually talk about them. So our dean goes and sits with the other deans of the other 5 schools, and they all have to make a case for their faculty for them to get be nominated for tenure, because the tenure is given by the UT system in Austin. So they all actually talk about it, and they talk about the promotion part of it. So it is just not the school level and the dean of the school approving it, but rather a much higher level, another layer from different schools coming together to make sure that those faculty who are promoted or those faculty who are being recommended for tenure, they truly deserve it. Mm-hmm. And they take time and they're invested. I mean, these deans spend time. They actually look at those portfolios. They come prepared to come talk about those individuals, which I thought was fascinating for a school to do that, for a dean to do that, to invest in, because they have other things they're doing. Right. But amid all those other busy schedules they have, they take time to do these kind of things, which is fascinating. And then the other thing that I've seen here is, you know about GWIMS. The GWIMS are, WMC part. But at McGowan, we have what is called a Women Faculty Forum. And this is a thriving, enterprise. I mean, kind of a small group setup. And they, the dean has spent, gives them money to do different things, and our office supports them. And that's another bunch of fantastic, phenomenal, faculty group that really is doing well. They encourage each other, they talk to each other. So that is another one that I've seen really successful over here, and could not be without the help of the team members that I have over here. Because we just had our annual meeting a couple of days ago, and everyone was so happy about, how it was all managed and taken care of. And we had 2 awardees. So we gave 4 awards to, from each sector, from the research, from the clinicals, and from the education. So, we had Trailblazer Awards basically for them. And so it was all very interesting. And I've seen, and the other thing is, this school, our school we don't own a hospital. So our faculty works at our other hospitals on the street that I was just talking about, like the Methodist or the Herman. I think that's where most of our faculty are. Memorial Herman is where it is. And so we don't own hospitals. So it's very different, how it all works. And then coming in on the administration part of it, so that's where all the finances and all the approvals happen. And of course, in the faculty affairs, all our promotions and all our, other things happen within that. So to me, it was a learning part. I mean, I have done budgeting, I have done other things within UMC's faculty affairs, but this is a little, much more broader than, much more deeper than what had been exposed over there, because, pretty much everything comes through this office for a signature or for a waiver or a exception or whatnot. So if somebody wants to travel somewhere outside the country, and during these times when the budget is really tight, I mean, so a lot of scrutiny happens, and so the departments have to, get exceptions to that, and it goes through this office. And one thing that, that I wish and I, have shared this with my deans also, is for us to have a kind of a centralized database for the whole faculty, in which we don't, some of the schools, do have their own little, databases in their own offices. And I think we belong into that kind of category where we maintain a set of data for our own purposes. And then we depend on the central data for some part and not everything. But those are opportunities, the way I see that. So it's got a mix of both. So there are a lot of good things we are doing. There are opportunities that we know that we can work on. And that's where our focus is right now.
Yeah. Now, how do you do you have an explicit strategy for getting to know your leaders and your deans and your department chairs? I'm imagining you're reflecting a lot on, how Patrick built the culture there at Mississippi. But can you talk us through your thought process in terms of, okay, I'm the new guy on the block, 2 beloved longtime people in the Office of Faculty Affairs and the Office of Admin are retiring, things are new, I'm kind of being, scrutinized here. How do I go about building relationships? Can you talk us through your thought process and how you've tried to learn the culture there and build those relationships with those leaders?
Yeah, and it is difficult. I can tell you that it's not easy. I mean, there's no magic bullet for that. And I'm still, building that connections, that networking, and I still haven't met all my chairs. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons is comparing the 2 schools. Over here, like what I said, I think most of our faculty, they're not in the medical school. They're pretty much if they're clinicians, they're pretty much in the hospitals, or if they're researchers, they are in their labs, which may not be in the same building as where we are. So I have not met all my chairs yet. I met a few, and that's how the relationships are building. But it's mostly what I do is I have met with pretty much all my, I know all my department administrators, which some places they call it department management operations directors, or directors of all different departments. And so I know them, and that's where my bridge is. They are my bridge to the chairs, and eventually I hope to get to know everyone. But what is fascinating is that recently I just had a new chair that joined us, and I come to know she comes from a school that I have known for some time, and some of our faculty from my previous institution, they are in that school, and she knows each and every one of them that we name. So we met the other day, and I said, and I'm going to go set up a 50-minute meeting and go talk to her. So that when you have those common elements, it becomes a little more easier for us to bridge or to make the relationships happen and to build and cultivate the relationships. But more importantly, I think what we did here is I think our team, my two deans, they actually introduced me to pretty much most of the institution, either through electronic or through different meetings where they have taken me along with them to represent them after that. So that has been great. And if you can imagine, around 1,600 faculty, 23, 24 departments, and then as many buildings as you can think about. So it's not easy really to get to every one of them. I mean, you are going to know some key players, which is what I have done so far, to identify those who key players are, who are the ones who actually makes things happen, to know and get to know them, which I have done. And gradually in the next, 12 to 18 months, I should be able to get to know all my chairs and for them to know. Right now through the emails, they all know me.
Right.
But, but more importantly, I think, I look at my DMOs. I think they're the key players. One of the main important, factors in anyone's life, if you are in faculty affairs, is you always depend on your department administrators because they're the ones who can actually get things done for you. Whether it's faculty development or faculty affairs, they're the ones who really can get things for you.
Yeah.
So that said, I think I'm on advantage on that part of it. But it'll take some time for me to get to know everyone within this enterprise.
How many faculty do you have there?
I think it's approximately 1,575. That's how many we have. And then we also have, I believe the volunteer faculty is probably around 900, if I'm right. I think that's probably the number I'm looking at. Yeah, that's roughly an amount. Yeah, and the other thing is we don't do onboarding every 2 weeks. We do onboarding. Like we have a orientation once a year for all faculty, and I know some schools do that.
Yeah,
and some schools.
I was always surprised to learn that in Mississippi it's like every 2 weeks.
They did it every 2 weeks. Yeah, they did it. And I think, what that did is, every 2 weeks when you do that, you actually get to know each of your faculty as they're coming in, and which is probably an advantage to that office actually up there. So when you do this once a year thing, it becomes a little more, challenging for you to know 200 faculty at the same time. You're going to go in for a meeting, orientation, you're going to go talk to them. How many do you remember after that?
Yeah.
But every 2 weeks when you do that, it's a small group, and they always stick with you, and then you're going to see them if you have your own hospitals, and you're meeting with them and doing them. So that is fascinating. That is good too. And now, I also do consultations, with the faculty. So if I review their CVs for their individual promotions plans. So between me and Dr. Morano, who's my dean over here on faculty affairs, we manage that process. So he meets with them, but I also get a chance to review and probably make my recommendations. And sometimes I meet with one or two of them that I feel like, or if they ask for me, then I do that too. Yeah. So this is interesting. So it takes time to build relationships.
Yeah. I like how you said that the leaders there have made a concerted effort, of course, politely and appropriately so, introducing you via email, and they've taken another step by inviting you to go to meetings and sponsoring you and introducing you and endorsing you and validating you, and that sends to me a very strong message, and it sounds like they're doing that on purpose. So that's another, to me, and an indicator of a healthy culture, that they recognize that that's bi-directional, that you just can't be left on your own running around trying to figure out who to meet and how to operate. So that's really
absolutely. And you're right. I think it is very purposeful, and that's how it's always done here. And I think I kind of like that too. And to me, I think that's something that all leaders should be doing. I mean, if you bring in someone on your team, I think it is on the leader or somebody on the team to make sure that the newbie is introduced, gets to know people around it. And I wish I did a little more better than that. When I came here the first 2 weeks, I probably should have gone to all departments and met with everyone. But our time, so those two directors that I was talking about, they only had 1 week with me before they left. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of things that I had to learn from them. So it was all pretty much, meetings and meetings and meetings. Right. So we didn't get a lot of time to go visit everyone. So it was mostly either phone calls or through the emails or maybe in a meeting that I would go there. Then that's when I get to see them or talk to them and introduce myself. Yeah.
You said you're already doing consulting with faculty members about promotions. Are you hearing any themes or issues that are kind of lurking in the back of your head that sound familiar to you in terms of our annual PDC, our professional development conference, where we had the what keeps you up at night? Are you starting to hear similar refrains of, oh yeah, I've heard this before, or anything new coming up that you've been thinking about?
No, I think a lot of the topics or items that come up will easily resonate with us from GFA. I don't think we have uncovered anything new so far, but what we do here is sometimes we get those accelerated requests, which means someone who wants to go a promotion earlier than their time, and sometimes it is difficult for them to understand. And when I as a third party review the CV, but those things I don't talk to, I don't meet with those individuals and talk to my dean. He will meet with them to convey that message, whatever it is. And at times it's not easy. I mean, they may not really understand what that accelerator means. So if you were to ask me, and if I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to say, hey, I'm a 5-star guy, and I'm great in everything I'm doing. But then when you look at it, you may have a whole different perspective to that, and you may say, Johnson, well, I see some gaps here, and this is where there are some opportunities for you to improve. So if you wait for a year, you might be in a really good position to go off a promotion or for tenure. And and sometimes the faculty will take it, and they will. They're thankful for that, and then they acknowledge that, and then they go back and come back in a year. And sometimes, maybe not many, one or two might say, no, I want to push for it, I want to go for it, and then the result comes back as what we had predicted. But again, it's a learning lesson for them too. And they know that. I mean, going in, they know the odds are probably not in favor of them, but they still want to give it a shot. And see, because, the committee is almost 15, 16 members there, so who knows how that's going to go through. And this is a committee that really, really goes really deep. I mean, they study it very well before they come and try to present their case or, talk about the faculty they're reviewing. And that's something different that I've seen here compared to my previous institution is faculty is assigned to a primary reviewer, and then you have a secondary reviewer. And they are the ones who are actually presenting the case or, to the whole committee. And you make the committee then decides how in the previous institution, it was everyone was a primary reviewer pretty much, and they voted on that. So, so I don't know which one is a better one. So you could argue for either way. And this year, I know we have around 93 faculty who's going for promotion and tenure. It's just a big number. It's a lot, it's a big number. So asking 17 or 18 reviewers to go through 93 portfolios, it's not a simple task. I mean, they also have a day job, and so you have to be mindful of that. But
is there a rolling or open application for promotion there, or is it only certain times of the year where you have to submit your materials?
It is actually happening right now. So we just closed the portfolio part right now. So the second phase of it, which is requiring the letters of reference, that's happening right now. So the deliberations will start next month.
So it is like a one time a year when people can apply.
Right.
Okay.
That is correct. And
so at Hopkins, people can apply any day of the year.
Yeah.
Minute of the year.
The only ones that we entertain any time of the year before that is for someone who's moving from instructor to an assistant professor. I think that is an ad hoc kind of process. It doesn't have to go beyond our office. We can approve that within our office. So it doesn't have to go for a full FAP, a committee recommendation, things like that. But it's interesting. And the thing is, our school, like every other university, is mandated by the university systems, their bylaws and their rules and how they're all set up. And we have all little internal, processes in place to, using the university guidelines. So we are kind of tied as to how, or restricted as to how much we can play with it. I mean, the university has given us their guidelines, so we got to work within that. So it is interesting. Each is different. And Texas, as you know, has, I believe that we have around 12 medical schools for the UT system. Yeah. So it's quite big. It's quite big.
You know what? I can't understand this. So kind of switching tracks here a little bit. How in the world does a faculty member at Houston, I'm envisioning it like, the Strip in Las Vegas. They're going to go work at McGovern Medical School, but then they're just going to go walk up and down the Strip at all these hospitals and say, I'm going to go work there. And they have to negotiate their own like appointment at a hospital? So you said your faculty they're in the school, but they all work at different hospitals. How does that logistically work?
So it's fairly simple, actually. So it's like what he said. It's like the Vegas Strip, right? I think it's almost like a mile, and Memorial Home, and it's all interconnected though. So and when the faculty comes in, when we appoint them, they know where they are practicing, either the Memorial Home in or whichever hospital is the children's or whichever hospital it is. They know where they are, and most of our clinicians, they probably are spending 95% of the time at the clinics where they are. And then, of course, we also have, as you know, Houston is a really big city, fourth largest in the country. And so we have locations or clinics outside of the Houston area. So you go 20 miles, we have clinics over there. So we have faculty serving over there. And you go 30 miles, 50 miles out, we have clinics over there. So it's spread out everywhere. So you have UT physicians, offices spread across the Houston metro. So our faculty is everywhere. But that's where they are. So when you get an appointment...
They start by identifying the clinical practice site. And
that is correct.
Each of those sites have an affiliation with McGovern Medical School?
All those appointments are in at McGovern Medical School. All the faculty appointments are at the McGovern Medical School, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah, in fact, I think we had as far as, sometimes we have folks as far as 100 miles out from here, serving in some other hospitals or helping or consulting and things like that. Because again, like what I said, I think being in this medical center, that they call it the Texas Medical Center of this area, and being in TMC, having access to different MD Anderson and different other places and research facilities, it is advantage faculty, literally advantage faculty, because now you have world class, everything that you can think about. And so if you're a researcher, if you're a clinician, if you want to do, if you want to do oncology or if you want to cardiac, you name it, they have it. And in fact, I think if you look at the grant money that MD Anderson gets and in our school gets, so it's pretty decent amount that they rake in, that bring in here, our faculty brings in here. Mm-hmm. And they have many institutes that go along with each department. So there are neuroscience or there are immunology, there are different ones. Many institutes that go along with it, and it's still growing.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine the logistical nightmare of trying to organize faculty development seminars and workshops and leadership programs where, I'm thinking at Hopkins, we have 6 hospitals and we have some satellite clinics here and there, but it's nowhere near as big as Texas. So I can't imagine the whole, where do we have it? It's not even like which building should we have our meeting in a 10-block radius. It's like which part of the city. That is just so complicated.
Well, so I haven't even touched on that yet. I think, the faculty development part. So that's something that I'm one of my goals is to have something going on this year as part of my leadership goal is to get that going. And like what he said, you start thinking about the logistics of that. It is not easy, but however, we do have certain programs that are done at the institutional level. And, the faculty, whoever it is, I think they're given time to come and participate. So that's done in, close to our school, in the TMC, the medical center area, in the, our main office. And so people do come for that. And it is interesting, if you have to go give a faculty development seminar or a series or a speech or whatnot to one of the hospitals, you really don't go to the hospital. You basically ask the faculty to come here and to the medical school or to one of our common facilities to do that. And grants writing for our basic science, it all happens within the medical school or the medical center, one of our HR buildings, the big buildings up here. So it is possible to do it. It just, trying to figure out the logistics as to how and when can we do it. And it's going to be interesting, as I get closer to it, it is going to be interesting to see how it all maps out and plays out. And I'm hoping everything that I've learned through my process engineering mindset can help me map it out. And plus, there are folks over here who's already done those kind of things. So I'm not going to go reinvent the wheel, rather go and depend on them to help me navigate through those shots.
Yeah, I imagine you're going to have a lot of thought around delivering content electronically. So, snippets and webinars and just recorded sessions and who knows, Instagram, tweeting. We start tweeting faculty development.
These are all good ideas. I mean, what you said, the webinars, the podcast, and things like that, these are great ideas. Now, what we have to figure out is how do you get your faculty energized to use those kind of formats, right? I think they're already there. It's already there. You make it, you develop it, you deliver it. But merely delivering it doesn't meet, what your expectations. You really want participation in that. And how do you engage your faculty into that kind of environment? And that is going to be something that I have to think about and work with my other collaborators, my other team members, or my other offices that I know of that are already doing things like that. I know the education office is very much involved with that because we are coming up for our LCME accreditation site visit sometime early next year. And, that's something they've been working on for a long time right now. So that's why I said I think I can depend on, I can go to them and seek their advice and as to see how they have done and how they have delivered their content and increase their participation from faculty.
Did you just say your LCME is next year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's coming up next. We just finished our mock site this week, and we're going to come up with the real one early next year.
Oh my gosh, talk about trial by fire. Welcome to University of Texas. Oh, by the way, did we tell you? LCME's coming around the corner.
That's what keeps it going, right, Kim? I think, every time you learn something new to try out. And I did LCME with Mississippi also, so this is not the first time. So I was also helping over there, and I was, blessed to be part of their work up there. And I think, I believe UMC is also doing their LCME next year. So, but this was an opportunity that I gained from there. I mean, I gathered experience, and I come here, and then, you can just walk in there and see what it is. I mean, you just know what the standards are, and you're looking for that specific information and trying to make sure you understand what they are, where they are, and answer the questions that's going to come up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then SACS-EOC is coming up shortly, too. So we have two of those coming up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all interesting. This is good work. I mean, this is nice. I mean, I love it. I really truly enjoy. And you know what, Kim, I got to give a, shout out to my team members, too. I think each and every one of them, knowing they were all different offices, two separate offices, they have gelled well, they have come together, and they work really, really collaboratively, which is fantastic to see. And I have seen them grow. And I think I mentioned this to my team members the other day. I said, I don't know if you all realize how much you guys have grown in the past few months that I've been here, that I've seen you guys, taking decisions, coming up with solutions, helping them grow into it. And that is where I find my satisfaction. When I see them grow into that, that is where my satisfaction comes in. I don't need anything else but that. To me, that is fantastic. When you empower your team members, when they do things, and when you ask questions and they're asking questions, and now you have to go find the answers for the questions, and if you don't know that, and then that gives us that dialogue, that discussion happens, and which is fantastic. So in my office, I have this, I don't know if you've seen those, the glass things where you can actually write on those glass things. So in my office, I can write on my glass walls. So someone from outside, when they come in, they can see it's all scribbles on my walls, actually. So everything is in blue and black. So it's basically all the process, it's all the projects that we are working together, or the process flows that we have drawn together or charted together. So it's all up there. So, this is how we work. I mean, when they come in, I give them, they take one of my, those markers, and then we start drawing, we start talking, we start charting things, and puts our thoughts in there. And this is fantastic. I mean, so we come up with solutions.
Creative.
This is great.
So
it is fun.
I mean, come up with your own infographic island.
That I'm not sure of, because I think he's perfect at that. And I can tell you that, I mean, that faculty life cycle chart, I mean, that is perfect. I mean, I don't know if I can add anything more to that stuff. It is beautiful up there. Yeah, I think the chart that he's got, it's really fantastic.
Well, it sounds to me like you got a concept there with that Miracle Mile of hospitals and the strip concept, the Las Vegas strip concept. I think you got something that you could percolate there.
Yep, probably could. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think there's nothing more rewarding than when you show up to work every day with people whose hearts are in the right place, when they truly care about the faculty members, that is their blood. They just love to help, and they have those hearts of service, and they truly believe it. they eat the mission, they just love it. And there's nothing more rewarding than just sitting there and listening and watching the light bulbs going off and people who just want to make a difference and really just love your faculty. It makes you feel so good.
It does. And, the best part is when you see those faculty coming back to the team members and really thanking them for their work that they did or helping them get to the promotions. It's phenomenal. And I know, so this time when I came for the GFA PDs in July, I had one of my team members to go with me from this office, and that is the first time she had ever attended a professional conference, GFA conference. And to see the light and to see the joy in her, knowing that there are many more like her in this GFA world, and it was really nice. It was really it was self-satisfying time for me to see how she enjoyed it and making the networking and getting to know people, getting to talk to people, and understanding. All of us are struggling probably with the same kind of issues, and we are all trying to figure out what the solutions are, and there is not an easy one. So so that to me was one of my that was one of my highlights. I tell people all the time, if not for anything else, but that by itself is a great thing.
Yeah, when people recognize each other, at least by, you understand me, you see me, I see you, I get you, I know the life you're living. It's so comforting to know that you're not alone in this. So, totally right.
Yep.
Well, Jonathan,
right. So
this is great. Is there anything else you wanted to share with the faculty affairs, faculty development family out here listening to you today?
Well, Kim, thank you for the opportunity that you that you gave me to share some of my thoughts and some of my life experiences in this faculty affairs, faculty development world. And one thing that I would encourage anyone within our domain who works in faculty affairs. This is a job that many times, sometimes it's a thankless job. I mean, we do things and then we just go about doing the next thing. We just go out and do the next thing. Forget about those things, but, keep doing what you're doing as long as you're passionate about doing the work that you're doing. I mean, it is, at the end, when it comes time for us to leave everything back, I think you will look back and say, I have done my job well. And to me, that is the most satisfying thing is when you see your faculty walking down the lane somewhere and they come and talk to you. You may not know them, but they may come and recognize you and say, hey, thank you very much for helping me with that. I mean, you don't know what you did, but that has led them to a different path and higher grounds. I mean, so that is fantastic and phenomenal. So keep doing what you're doing. GFA is fantastic. And Kim, again, thank you very much for the time and inviting me to the podcast.
Well, thank you for reminding us of that. That really meant a lot. Yeah, you're exactly right. Thank you for the reminder that even if it's one little fish, we are making a difference, and we just keep pushing. And we have to listen. In Johnson George's words, listen, understand, and think. I love that. Well, thank you, Johnson. This has been wonderful. And folks, tune in next time to the Faculty Factory podcast. Spread the word. Talk to you later, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.